Hello and welcome. Today we were going to dive headfirst into one of the most famous and enduring legends of all time, the story of Atlantis, an incredible civilization, supposedly swallowed by the sea. But what is fact and what is fiction in this whole story? Let's find out. To start, let's focus on the image that almost everyone has of Atlantis nowadays. That vision of a utopian city, super advanced, almost magical. That's it, right? The image that immediately comes to mind, the one we've seen in movies, read about in books, the idea of a giant, super powerful empire that, overnight, poof, disappears beneath the waves. It's a story that, let's face it, has fascinated us for centuries. The big question is this: where did such a fantastic story come from? Well, the answer is, at the same time, much simpler and much more complicated than you might think. And to find out, we need to take a journey back to ancient Greece. And this is where it gets really interesting, because, believe it or not, every reference, every movie, every book about Atlantis all leads back to a single source. Exactly. The only original sources we have about Atlantis are two texts by a Greek philosopher, Plato, Timaeus and Critias, written around 360 BC. That's it. There's nothing else. No mysterious maps, no lost scrolls, just the writings of a philosopher. And Plato describes it in immense detail. He talks about a formidable naval power, a gigantic island larger than Libya and Asia combined, with an empire that dominated parts of Europe and Africa. Basically, he was painting the portrait of a true superpower of antiquity. And the name itself tells us a lot about the story's origin. Atlantis, meaning Island of Atlas. And who was Atlas in Plato's story? He was the first king, son of Poseidon, the god of the sea. So we can see here that the roots of the story are deeply immersed in Greek mythology. This brings us to the key question. If the story comes from a philosopher and is full of gods, was Plato trying to tell a true story, or was he trying to convey an idea, a lesson? The answer is here. Everything indicates that Plato was creating an allegory, a kind of moral tale. On one side, we had Atlantis, arrogant, imperialist, a naval superpower corrupted by power and greed. On the other side, he presented an idealized version of his own city, Athens, virtuous, just, the perfect state. It was good versus evil, essentially. So Atlantis was not meant to be a historical record. It was a fable, a warning about the dangers of excessive pride, the arrogance of a nation. The moral of the story was quite clear. Even the greatest empire will eventually fall if it abandons virtue. And of course, divine punishment is swift. The gods punish Atlantis, sinking it into the sea in a single day and night of misfortune. The most curious thing is that for over 2,000 years, almost everyone understood the message. Most scholars, and even Plato's most famous student, Aristocles, considered the story for what it was: fiction, an invention. So what happened to change that? Well, the shift was drastic, but it took time. As we can see after Plato, the idea of Atlantis was used by other writers, but always as a fictional place. The major turning point happened, believe it or not, only in 1882. When an American named Ignatius Donnelly published a book that changed the game. He took the allegory and transformed it into a supposed lost history of a real civilization, the mother of all others. And from there it went wild. Donnelly's book completely opened the door to speculation, and that speculation continues to this day. Atlantis stopped being Plato's story and became a generic concept for any ancient lost civilization you could imagine. This map is an excellent example of that desire to locate the myth in a physical place. It's from 1669, long before Donnelly, and shows Atlantis right there in the Atlantic Ocean. It's a fascinating mix of study and pure imagination. And a curious detail, the south is at the top, which was common in some maps of that era. After Donnelly's book, the hunt for Atlantis spread across the globe. The list of possible locations is enormous. Some point to the Greek island of Santorini, others to Spain, and there are theories ranging from Ireland all the way to Antarctica. It must be said, however, that none of these theories are supported by archaeologists or historians. So we reach the end with the obvious question. If the original story was an allegory, and if there is not a single piece of physical evidence, Why does this legend still hold so much power over us? The answer may lie in what the story represents. Atlantis taps into a very human desire, the idea that there once was a golden age, a perfect past that we lost. It has become a powerful metaphor. On one hand, our dreams of a perfect society. On the other, the fear of the consequences of our own arrogance. At its core, it's like a mirror. Maybe that's why we keep searching for it. Perhaps the search for Atlantis isn't really about finding a submerged island. Perhaps it's more about exploring ourselves, our hopes and our fears. An eternal reminder that the line separating greatness from downfall is sometimes very, very thin.